Hello, happy Friday. Welcome to my Friday night live stream. Tonight, I am talking about how to grow from pain. And pain is something I am very familiar with. But before I get into that, I'm going to quickly give you a couple updates. Like, if you're on my newsletter, then this week you received your February. Why is that word so hard to say? February. You received your monthly email the first Tuesday of the month this week. And I'm going to be doing newsletters once a month from now on. So that's a big update. And that's going from once a week to once a month. Also, this week, I shared the survey results from my survey for women who date men. And I was so curious when I created that survey about other women's experiences with dating men. And it was very eye-opening, but it was, noticed, and I acknowledge it completely, that it's not a large sample size, my survey, and also it's all people who follow me. So you're going to get people who are more open-minded sexually answering the survey. So it's not really representative of all women. It would have to be a much larger survey, but it's representative of the kind of women that follow me. So all very cool women. If you read the results of the survey, you can tell that they have minds and opinions that are valid and worthy to check out. So go to annietemple.com to check out my blog and see the results of that survey and other surveys and other articles that I've written. I'm just going to have a sip of water. So what we're talking about today is how to grow from pain. And this is a subject that means a lot to me. Pain can mean a lot of things, obviously. It can mean emotional pain, mental pain, physical pain, spiritual pain. There are so many ways to experience pain, but they are similar. They're similar in a lot of ways. In one way, in my experience, that they're similar is that when you're going through extreme pain, it's hard to believe that that pain will ever go away. And it's you fight it, at least in my situation. I've always fought that pain, which I think is a natural thing, but it's not what we're supposed to do, which I will get to. And pain is, whether it's physical or emotional or mental, it makes us question whether life is worth living, because pain is suffering, and suffering is not fun to do, obviously, right? I think the first time I really experienced something that I call the sweetness of sorrow, I was probably about 22 or 20, no, 21 or 22 years old. And I was going through a very emotional period of time. And I sat down with my roommate and we smoked a joint together. And I started to talk to her about my problems. And it wasn't something that I did very often, but I really, really let it out. And if you smoke weed, then you know that it can really get you talking and flowing and opening up. And I really opened up. And I had tears streaming down my face, just opening up to my friend. And I couldn't believe like how painful it felt to really share my emotions and lean into them, but also like how good it felt. Like it felt like a relief for sure, but there was also something else more physical that was like like pleasurable almost. And it's so hard to describe, but I've always thought of it from that day forward, because what I thought when I went through that was, now I understand what people are talking about when they say sweet sorrow. Oh, sweet sorrow. Because how can sorrow be sweet, really, right? It's painful. It sucks. It's horrible. Mentally, if we think about it rationally, we can't imagine a sorrow that tastes sweet or that is enjoyable or pleasurable or something that we can, even if does make us feel good in some way, we either don't consciously recognize that usually, or if we do, we're ashamed of it. We don't want to admit that our pain also causes a certain degree of pleasure. Now, this is a whole other subject that I could go down the rabbit hole. If you ever get a chance, read the book Existential Kink. It's so good, but it really talks about the shadow self and about the pleasures that we actually long for that are bad for us and that we can't bring to the surface of our consciousness because it's improper to do so. But anyway, this is totally off topic, so I'm not going to keep going that way. But the whole point of the sweetness of sorrow, I was like my early 20s, the first time I realized that sorrow and pain could feel good. And what obviously now looking back, I know what made it feel good. A big part of what made it feel good was that I was leaning into it and I was sharing it and I was expressing it. And pain and heartache is something we should express. We should express it very honestly with our heart and our feelings, because it's the way to process it. You see with people who have post-traumatic stress disorder, for instance, that they'll repeat their trauma story over and over again. They'll tell it to people over and over, and they'll look for opportunities to talk about it, and they'll I want to say, because in my case this is what I did, but like almost hyper focus on it. And uh, I just wanted to validate my experience with anyone who would listen. And I was always looking for this kind of reaction from people, which I wouldn't usually get the one I wanted. But it was just like this weird, it was out of my control. And that's the general sense of what I understand of post-traumatic stress disorder, is that when you have something really painful that your mind body is really struggling to process, that you repeating the story over and over is how you heal. So, but I feel like a lot of the time in those situations we're also fighting it, you know, at least I did. But again, I'll get to that. So the most recent experience of sweet sorrow that I went through was when I was first falling in love with this really wonderful man. And I knew that he had some issues, that he wasn't perfect. None of us are perfect. But I really felt a bond and a connection with him. And so I was really devastated when he just disappeared one day. And this was like 9 years ago or something. So don't worry, it's not like it happened in the last year. But this particular situation, I think because the relationship was so new, and I don't know about you, but when I'm newly in a relationship, I'm more sensitive about any fucked up shit happening in the relationship, you know? Whereas when I've been in the relationship for a while and I've been through some fucked up shit, then I'm more like, I take it in stride. So my love interest at the time disappeared. And I was devastated. I was just devastated. But because at that time in my life, I had a really different perspective than I had previously. And my perspective was that I wanted to be happy every day and I wanted to live every day for to its fullest. And so when I was going through that pain with this love interest, I realized that I couldn't be with him anymore, even though I loved him so much. And I just knew that no matter what, I needed to make sure I didn't keep going through that kind of pain, because I was committed to having a happy existence every day, because I'd been very sick in the past and I knew that everything you have can just be taken from you in an instance. And I don't want to waste the life that I have left with someone that doesn't feed my soul. I don't want to be with someone that takes from me. I want to be with someone that gives to me, someone that makes my life better, not worse. And so that experience I knew, and that was part of what my pain was, is I was grieving. I was grieving because I knew I had to end the relationship. And it made me really sad because he was a wonderful, beautiful person with problems, obviously, but I didn't want those problems to make those problems my own. But in my ability to, and I call it let go with love, letting go with love, in my ability to let go with love because of everything I'd been through. This was the first time that someone in a relationship hurt me, and instead of feeling angry and wanting to punish them or retaliate or some kind of toxic uh, reaction, because I was a different person and I looked at the world differently. This was the first time that I just thought to myself, I'm so sad this has to end, but I'm so grateful that I had the wonderful times that I had with this beautiful person who's obviously fucked up. And they were beautiful times. And that's the thing. A lot of the time when someone hurts us, we don't want to acknowledge those beautiful times that came before. We focus on the pain that we're in now. And so being able to recognize that the reason I was going through that kind of pain, and I'll also get to this, was because of my strong feelings for the person, and being able to sit in gratitude for what had created those strong feelings, those beautiful moments that we had shared that created those strong feelings. And now I had to let go with a love, because I don't want to have that in my life. But wow, so glad I got to go through those wonderful experiences, you know? So this is about the sweetness of sorrow. And that's a couple of experiences to describe it. And I can think of other times in my life when I was just in like agony, like physical or emotional agony. And I was able to find like this sweet spot of just like gratitude or something. I don't know. And you don't even know why you feel gratitude, but it's there because you're grateful to be alive. And suffering, it's a part of being alive. I don't think that there are people who don't suffer. I think there's obviously varying degrees of suffering. Some people would say that I've suffered much worse than them. And I've had people read my memoir and say, wow, I'm so sorry for what you've been through. And I'm like, well, that's not really what I was trying to make people feel when they read my book. But if they had never been through the kinds of things that I'd been through, then to them, I'd been through great suffering. And then I look at other people, like people in war-torn countries or people who've lost their child. And there are so many things, and I'm not going to name them all, but there are so many things that I haven't been through that I can imagine would be way more painful than what I've been through. So obviously there's varying degrees or kinds of pain that we each experience. Um, and I do feel that we have to try within our own lives to differentiate between like the minor trivialities versus the momentous tragedies. And that kind of goes against some of the philosophies that I believe in, like Stoicism, because although Stoics will mourn when obviously someone they love dies, they try very hard to see it as just a part of life and just another part of life. And so if in that case, you would have to try and look at minor trivialities and major momentous tragedies as like the same thing because they're all just part of life. But in the whole scheme of things, in the whole scheme of our lives, if we're really going to allow ourselves to become debilitated or at least really impacted and affected by sad or emotional or painful things, then we should try to allow those to be the, and let the little go. Like when I was upset last week, unpacking fast enough. That's a minor triviality. I'm not going to let that wreck my relationship with her or destroy our living situation or like, yeah, I might get a little bit annoyed and we might have to work that out, but I'm not going to let that impact how I look at my daughter or, it's minor, right? Your husband leaves the socks under the coffee table every single day. I mean, I've been with multiple guys who did that. I don't know. Is that a thing? But it's a minor triviality. And we'll find ourselves when we don't cherish the day, when we don't cherish today, we'll find ourselves getting upset over these really minor things. And what I also found was when you're in a relationship that's unhealthy, the minor things just pile up because they add on top of the other shitty stuff. So if you're with someone who never pays attention to you, always stares at their phone, just wants to have sex when they roll over in bed with the TV on, and doesn't really, buys you flowers every single time it's your birthday because they remembered at the last minute on their way home from work, oh shit, I got to get her flowers. You know what I mean? Like if there's no connection in your relationship, that's the issue, right? And you're going to get more annoyed over them leaving their socks under the table. Whereas if you have a connected partner who's always telling you how much they love you and looking into your eyes and listening to you talk and not staring at their phone and telling you that you're sexy all day long, so that at night when you fall into bed, you're like, he thinks I'm sexy. He told me all day long. Like these are the kinds of things like that guy, you're going to be like, oh, he left his socks under the table again. I'll have to clean those up. That silly boy. It's so different, right? But it's still a minor triviality, really, in the whole scheme of things. And when we stop and we imagine a worst case scenario, like we find out we're going to die, or someone else in the family dies, and we realize like how precious life is, and then we start to realize, oh, the socks under the coffee table are not a big deal, really, so I don't know why I went off on that little rant, but suffering is a part of being alive, and we should differentiate between the minor and major shit. Also, something that has gotten me through pain, which is very, very important to remember, is that pain is always temporary. And you see this in different places, like the Bible, I think, says this too shall pass. And Jim Rohn, he says the winter always follows the fall, and the spring always follows the winter. He said it always happens this way. And he's not talking about the seasons. Basically, what he's saying is every single time our lives fall into disarray and go through a winter of pain and hell and suffering, next comes the spring. It will get better. We will find happiness, love, truth, enjoyment, joy. Again, we will find it. It will come again. Pain is absolutely temporary, and the spring comes after the winter every single time. So, and it's true. And I don't know like why that is. I don't just mean why the spring comes after the winter, like literally, but in life it does. And if you look back over your life, or if you pay attention moving forward, you'll see that when you're going through the darkest winter, after the winter comes the spring. So if you can hold out and not do anything too hasty, and not burn all your bridges, and tell everyone how horrible they are, and are, or worse, even, want to die or take your own life. If you can make it through the winter and the pain and the hardship, it will end. There's an acronym, HOPE, hold on, pain ends. And I actually have that tattooed on my arm. Hold on, pain ends, because I used to repeat that to myself when I was in pain, and it helped me. Hold on, pain ends. It reminded me that pain does end. Oh my goodness, 7:22. I've got 8 minutes to get through this, unless we go a little bit over. And I wanted to mention about grief, because grief, I think, is probably the most painful pain, emotional pain that we can go through. The loss of a relationship, the loss of a job, the loss of anything that is special to us, or even more devastatingly, the loss of of life, of someone we love, obviously. All of these things are the things that we mourn when we lose them, or that we grieve for. And grief is a very difficult process. It's very painful. And it takes a long time, depending on what we're grieving. It can take a really long time. What has helped me about grief is to remember something that I read once. Yeah, it's always something I read. But that grief is love turned inside out, or grief is another form of love. And so when I heard that, I really started to think about it. And it's true, because we wouldn't grieve, we wouldn't mourn if we didn't have great love for something or someone. We wouldn't go through a grieving process if we didn't have that love. And so recognizing that, we can also we can express within ourselves our gratitude for the thing that we loved and for the time that we had with it. And also recognize that our pain, as much as it hurts, is really love, and then hopefully sensing that it can give you some of that sweetness of sorrow that you can lean into. And that's what I wanted to talk about, was kind of the main thing, is this idea of that you have to feel to heal. You have to lean into your pain. And I'm definitely not an expert at that. I'm actually quite terrible at that. When I get upset, or I'm going through any kind of pain, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, I don't care what it is, I definitely isolate. I pull myself away. I try to fight those feelings. I try to fight it. I try to do anything to stop it. And it takes conscious effort for me to force myself to allow myself to have those feelings, to experience those feelings. And on a spiritual level, how you can do that is is to close your eyes and use your third eye, or the perceiver and the perceived, to step outside yourself and then notice everything. Notice the pain, the feelings that you're having inside your chest or your heart. Notice your heart racing. Notice your clammy skin. Notice the thoughts as they go through your mind. Notice and allow yourself to just feel the pain, how much that pain is, how much it hurts. And just lean into it. And that's how you can not only feel that sweetness of sorrow, but you will heal. You will heal from your pain. It won't happen overnight, especially if it's something devastating. But it will happen if you allow yourself to feel it, lean into it, and let it go. Now, when I say feel it and lean into it, I don't mean sitting in your anger and blaming. I don't mean that. I mean a purely sensory experience of feeling what you feel. Some thoughts will go through your head, sure, but don't let it go into this nasty, toxic cycle of no one loves me, people are assholes, uh, all the things that we think when we're in pain and when we're going through that's not healthy. That's not what I mean when I say you need to lean into it, or that you need to feel to heal. What I mean is feel the emotions, acknowledge the emotions that you're having, and love them. Love yourself, love that you are like a feeling, living human being, because pain really does remind us that we're alive. I wanted to do a meditation and all kinds of stuff. Maybe if you guys want to leave, you can, but maybe I'll just finish and do what I was going to do. So I just wanted to read a little bit here. So pain is a roadmap to our blocks so that we can heal through them. So it shows us what we need to heal from. And that can be, we need to change what we're eating or what's in our environment because it's making us physically ill. It could mean that we might need to leave our relationship because it's unhealthy and it's causing these terrible feelings. It can tell us that something inside our bodies or our minds is triggered. Offense, this is something I want to touch on. Offense is a form of pain. It's a pain that comes from how we think and the belief that others are against us. Okay, we get offended when we think others are attacking us or against us. Okay, or against someone that we want to defend. And I wanted to say that in responding to offense, we should act from love instead of pain. Great love, not great pain. And the reason why is because we can seek to educate instead of retaliate. Otherwise, it becomes a cycle of we're offended and then we offend them. They're offended, then they offend us. So it's a cycle of offense. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't heal. To feel and heal, I'm going to read this. To feel and heal, we must examine our true feelings, identify where they are coming from, give ourselves grace and courage to lean into our pain, experience the incredible sweetness of our love for what we've lost, and acknowledge that shame is never a constructive emotion unless we use it to do better for ourselves and others in the future. So this meditation, quickly, I'm just going to tell you, I'm not going to take you through it, but you can do it yourself. So it's a Buddhist meditation and it's called a compassion meditation. And basically you get into a comfortable position, somewhere quiet. And I've done an awareness meditation before, but you may not have been there. But basically sensing, becoming aware of everything in you, outside of you. You push out into your awareness. And as you push out into your awareness, where am I here? Here it is. There it is. Yeah. So you're pushing out into your awareness. Now, imagine the other people who are having the same pain as you. There are other people having the same pain as you. You're not the only one going through what you're going through, because everything we go through is part of being human. It's the human condition, which means if it can happen to us, it can happen to other people. If it can happen to other people, it can happen to us. It's the human condition. So you imagine yourself reaching out in your awareness to the other people in the world who are suffering from the same kind of pain that you're suffering from. Then you spread that energy out and you allow it to touch them. You allow it to touch those people who are suffering from the same pain. And once you feel connected with them, start to inhale slowly, breathing in their pain. Bring it in, and imagine there's a bright light inside you that as you breathe it in and breathe in their pain, this bright light just extinguishes all of our pain, their pain, your pain, like a collective dousing of pain. And then as you breathe out, you're releasing this healing energy and you're sending out to all the people who are suffering from the same pain you are. And so this is something you want to take your time with and really, really get into and really think about and imagine and visualize and feel as you do this meditation. And what it's so cool about it is that it reminds us that we're not alone, that we're not the only ones going through this kind of pain. And it also gives us some compassion for ourselves and the pain we're going through, because when it's always easier to feel compassion for other people than ourselves. So it allows us to tap into that compassion we have for other people and bring it back to ourselves. So I just want to read this last part and then I'm going to close up. So we're not doing too bad. Once we have the ability to see pain as something good, necessary, and natural, a part of being alive, then we can begin to experience the raw, pure sweetness of sorrow. And we can lean into its beauty. For me, pain reminds me that I'm alive, that I'm a feeling, experiencing, loving, passionate being. And I cannot feel such deep lows if I did not feel such deep loves. When we are grateful for every pleasure and pain that our lives provide us, what a paradigm shift. Our smaller troubles begin to appear much more trivial, and our tragedies become more poignant. Pain, sorrow, suffering, and all the variations of hardship that we endure are beautiful, elegantly designed gifts from the field of love energy that is the universe. They are devastating, crippling, heartbreaking opportunities for us to grow and to see how strong we are. And they are a part of the beauty of being alive. And so remember that pain always eases or ends. Hold on, pain ends. Grief is another form of love. Minor trivialities are meaningless in the whole scheme of things, and momentous tragedies are natural aspects of being alive. And we have to lean into our suffering. We literally have to feel to heal. We must lean into the terrible, glorious, frightening, beautiful feelings of pain that remind us that we are alive and that we are capable of great love and great sorrow. And that is how we grow from pain. And I really hope that, hey, Mel, I just saw your comment. Thank you for commenting. I really hope that if you're listening today, we've got 27 viewers. That's not bad for a Friday night. I hope that this has touched you in a way that makes you feel hope and allows you to lean into your pain, whatever's causing you suffering, and know that I'm reaching out to you and sending you healing energy. All right. Have a wonderful weekend. Love you. Love you, Mel. Love you guys.